the regime liar de jour of our last, let's just call it recent history, the last 20 years in America. The name synonymous with fake news is Brian Williams. Brian Williams is now out of a job. Brian Williams crawled back on his belly to a 11 o'clock show on MSNBC, and now his show is over. Brian Williams is done. Now, I don't know the details. Was he fired? His contract extension was up. His contract was up. So, how this works inside of cable news, I work in cable news as well. How this works inside of cable news is you take the retirement, you take the moving along when your contract isn't going to be renewed. So MSNBC comes to Brian Williams, says you're not getting your contract. You should take the easy W and tell people you're going to spend time with your family, which is exactly what's happening. Brian Williams to leave NBC News after 28 years. Former nightly news anchor who was demoted for telling false war stories calls it the end of a chapter. Well, there is no beginning. We don't know what Brian Williams is doing, but we do know that Brian Williams is out. Here's what Brian Williams had to say about it.
Last thing before we go tonight, as the old song says, we got a thing going on. Think about it. We've been meeting this way at this same time, this same place for an awful long while, 5 years, give or take. Next year is my 40th year in the business. The earth was still cooling, in fact, when I started as a reporter. And so that got me to thinking, and that led me to write something that we made public earlier tonight. And in case you missed it or demanded a dramatic reading, here it is, and it reads like this. Following much reflection and after 28 years with the company, I have decided to leave NBC upon the completion of my current contract in December. I have been truly blessed. I have been allowed to spend almost half my life with one company. NBC is a part of me and always will be. 28 years, 38 countries, 8 Olympic Games, 7 presidential elections, half a dozen presidents, a few wars, and 1 SNL. Good friends were in great supply at NBC. I was fortunate that everyone I worked with made me...
You know what? There's 2 more minutes left of that. I'll let you guys watch it. You can find it on YouTube if you want. I got a little triggered there, quite frankly. I got a little triggered there because Brian Williams was talking about the wars that he covered. Well, a little interesting. Fascinating, actually, that Brian Williams would mention that he covered wars. Isn't that quite unique? Isn't that something that Brian Williams can talk about covering wars? Isn't it the lying about covering wars that got Brian Williams fired in the first place? Yes, it is. This entire live is about the corporate rot, the fake news. The news that you see isn't real. It is propaganda. It is created by people like Hillary Clinton, by some of the most vicious and evil and venal human beings in our society, and that there are not consequences. It's why we're covering so closely what's happening with Durham. Because with Durham, it's shocking, but there are actually consequences that are happening for people who spread fake news. I give you fake news, as fake as the dossier, Brian Williams lying about what happened to him in war.
Time network TV anchor.
I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft. We're going along for the ride.
The incident in question came in 2003 when NBC's Brian Williams flew in with U.S. troops as they invaded Iraq. Listen carefully to what he said then.
We learned the Chinook ahead of us was almost blown out of the sky. That hole was made by a rocket-propelled grenade, or RPG.
Indeed, careful to underline, that's not the Chinook he was in. But
what happens
in retelling the tale over the years, that detail changed.
2 of our 4 helicopters were hit by ground fire, including the one I was in.
No kidding.
RPG and AK-47, with rounds coming into the airframe. But
Did you think you would die?
Briefly, sure.
Right up to last week,
after their Chinook helicopter was hit and crippled by enemy fire.
When first at an NHL game in New York and then on his own newscast, the new version stood.
When the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG.
Suddenly, soldiers who say they were there fired back, said one on Facebook. Such a liar. He was on my aircraft and we were not shot down. Said another, sorry, dude, I don't remember you being on my aircraft. I do remember you walking up about an hour after we had landed to ask me what had happened. Twitter, quickly filled with mockery and contempt. Calls for his firing amid fury for an untruth that seemed aimed at making Williams himself look good. And yet today, the pilot in Williams' aircraft in 03 to the rescue. Kind of.
He was there at the time of the attack.
Rich Krell telling CNN, indeed, their aircraft was not hit by the RPG, but it did take small arms fire.
I mean, we were all scared. That's the truth.
A conflation of events, says Williams, in explaining how he misremembered that frightening day.
And also now, my apology.
But leaving many to wonder, is that enough?
Here we go. So here I was at this bridge, and Frodo says to me, take the ring. All right. Lord of the Rings. Brian Williams, breaking Brian Williams at MSNBC in the fall of Saigon. It was an honor to be the first man on the moon. Good job, Dan Scavino. This is Donald Trump's digital director, spokesperson, digital spokesperson, trolling Brian Williams. Sociopathic, mind-numbing, smooth-brained commentary like this.
That actually, with the money he spent, he could have given every American $1 million.
I've got it. Let's put it up on the screen. When I read it tonight on social media, it kind of all became clear. Bloomberg spent $500 million on ads. U.S. population 327 million. Don't tell us if you're ahead of us on the math. He could have given each American $1 million and have had lunch money left over. It's an incredible way of putting it.
It's an incredible way of putting it. It's true.
No, it's not. No, you could. $500 million, you could have given every American $1 million. No. Do you know simple math? They don't know simple math. They don't know simple truth. They don't know how to be honest. They don't know how to be truthful. All they know how to do is lie. That is exactly what they did with the dossier. It's exactly what Brian Williams personifies. We're very happy to see him go. He should have never gotten another job in media. It was a huge demotion, but nonetheless, he remained on TV. And Brian Williams's final sign-off here. Here's what he had to say, his final time on NBC after years of lying about our armed forces, years of lying to the American people, years of ridiculous commentary like that. Like, if someone spends $500 million, they could give everyone $1 million. Anyway, the worst thing that Brian Williams ever did was personify the lying corporate establishment. And it is truly an insult to you, the American people. They do indeed think that we're all so stupid. It's something that we're going to be discovering here with the Durham trial. We're going to see exactly how many consequences really do exist with John Durham as he drags these rats out of their rats' nests and hopefully throws them in jail for a very, very long time for lying to the American people and lying to the FBI. Thank you for watching. We are 100% independent news. Are you sick of being lied to? We certainly are. That's why we started this channel. But we can't do it without you. We can't keep going without your help. All we ask is that you click like and subscribe and share this video. It's free. And it keeps us going, it keeps us growing, it keeps us getting the truth out there to break the rotted corporate media infrastructure that wants to lie to you every single day, wants to corrupt your narratives, your truth, your story, and your very society. So support us by clicking like, clicking subscribe, and thank you, Patriots.